calculated to within a fraction of a second, ensuring that the dopamine hit arrives exactly when your neural pathways are screaming for relief, but before your prefrontal cortex has time to realize you are being harvested. That feeling you have, that gnawing, low-frequency hum of anxiety suggesting you should be doing something else, something greater, something real, is not an accident. It is a product feature. You are not merely distracted. You are under siege by an architectural design so sophisticated, so pervasive, and so terrifyingly invisible that you mistake the bars of your cage for the horizon line. You believe you are the protagonist of your life, making choices, scrolling freely, deciding when to sleep and when to wake. You are wrong. You are the fuel. And there is a specific classified metric used by behavioral economists and retention engineers to determine exactly how much of your potential can be converted into passive consumption before you snap. They call it the atrophy coefficient. I'm going to tell you exactly how it works. I'm going to show you the blueprint of the prison they built inside your head. But I must warn you, once you understand the mechanism of the coefficient, you cannot unsee it. It will haunt every commercial you watch, every notification you swipe, and every hollow conversation you endure. I will reveal your personal score on this index at the very end of this broadcast, if you are brave enough to face it. Silence. Most people assume that wasting time is a personal failure, a lack of discipline, a flaw in character. This is the first lie. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled wasn't convincing the world he didn't exist. It was convincing the sheep that they engineered the slaughterhouse. To understand why your life feels like it is slipping through your fingers like sand, we must peel back the skin of the modern world and look at the rotting musculature beneath. We must descend into the first dark layer, the weaponization of biology. Consider the human eye. It evolved over millions of years to detect motion, to scan the savanna for predators, to lock on to the gaze of a mate. It is an instrument of survival. Now consider the screen. The screen is not a passive surface. It is a hyperstimulus. When you scroll, you are not looking at pictures. You are engaging in a neurological loop known as a variable reward schedule. This is the same psychological mechanic used in slot machines, but with one terrifying difference. The slot machine is in a casino. Your phone is in your bed. It is in your bathroom. It is the first thing you touch when you wake, and the last thing you touch before you drift into a fractured, medicated sleep. The engineers who designed the infinite scroll, the feature that removes the natural stopping cues of turning a page or reaching the bottom of a list, did not do so to help you consume content. They did it to bypass the stopping rule in your brain. In the physical world, things end. The book ends. The conversation ends. The sun sets. In the digital construct, there is no horizon. There is only the abyss. By removing the stopping cue, they induce a state of flow that is not creative, but catatonic. You enter a trance. Your heart rate slows. Your pupils dilate. You are present, yet entirely absent. You are in the zone of numbing. Pause. But this was only the beginning of the nightmare, because the addiction is not the goal. The addiction is merely the delivery system. The goal is the extraction of data, yes, but more importantly, the extraction of agency. Every second you spend in the loop is a second you are not building, not thinking, not resisting. A population that is perpetually distracted is a population that is politically docile, economically predictable, and philosophically dead. They don't just want your attention. They want your inability to focus on anything else. This brings us to the neurochemistry of mediocrity. Your brain has two
yet modes of operation regarding dopamine. There is cheap dopamine, instant, effortless, short-lived. This comes from sugar, pornography, likes, and outrage. Then there is expensive dopamine, delayed, effortful, sustained. This comes from deep work, exercise, learning a complex skill, and genuine intimacy. The modern architecture of existence is designed to flood the market with cheap dopamine, driving the value of expensive dopamine to zero. Think of it as inflation, but for your soul. When you can get a hit of satisfaction from a 10-second video, the prospect of reading a 300-page book feels like torture. The brain, seeking efficiency, chooses the path of least resistance. Over time, your neural pathways physically change. The gray matter associated with long-term planning and impulse control, the very hardware of success, begins to atrophy. You literally lose the biological capability to be great. You become a creature of impulse, reacting to stimuli rather than acting on intent. You become an animal in a zoo, waiting for the feeder to open. Visceral. And yet, we blame ourselves. We buy planners, we download productivity apps, we make resolutions. We try to treat a gunshot wound with a Band-Aid, failing to realize that the gun is still being fired and the shooter is in the room with us. Descend with me now to the second dark layer, the environmental Skinner box. If the phone is the needle, the modern environment is the asylum. Look at the architecture of our cities, our offices, our schools. Everything is standardized. Everything is safe. Everything is beige. We have constructed a world that is hostile to the outlier. The educational system, born of the Prussian model, was never designed to create thinkers. It was designed to create obedient workers and soldiers. It rewards rote memorization and punishes deviation. It conditions you from the age of 5 to sit still, to raise your hand for permission to speak, to wait for the bell. It teaches you that your time belongs to the institution, not to you. When you graduate, you move into the cubicle, or the open plan office, which is worse. The open plan is a panopticon. You are constantly observed. You are subjected to a barrage of interruptions. Deep work is impossible. You are forced into a state of continuous partial attention. You answer emails that don't matter to appease managers who don't care, to earn currency that loses value every year, to buy things you don't need, to impress people you hate. Why? Why is the system designed this way? Because a society of fulfilled, autonomous, critical thinkers is dangerous to the status quo. A man who is happy with little, who can sit in a room alone and be content, is a man who cannot be sold anything. He cannot be manipulated by fear. He cannot be controlled. Therefore, the system must ensure that you are never content. It must ensure that you are always hungry, always anxious, always slightly inadequate. They manufacture insecurity. They sell you the poison in the morning and the antidote in the evening. You feel ugly? Buy this cream. You feel lonely? Download this app. You feel insignificant? Post this photo. It is a closed loop of misery and consumption, and the most terrifying part is that we defend it. We defend our chains. We call it comfort, we call it entertainment, we call it normal. Entropy. But the rot goes deeper than just commerce. It touches the very fabric of human connection. We are witnessing the atomization of the species. We have never been more connected, yet we have never been more isolated. This is by design. A fractured populace is easier to manage. If you are busy fighting your neighbor over a headline that was algorithmically generated to enrage you, you are not looking at the men behind the curtain. The attention economy thrives on conflict. Anger is the most viral emotion. It engages the amygdala, bypassing logic. So the algorithms prioritize content that makes you angry.
They radicalize you. They put you in an echo chamber where your worst biases are confirmed and your empathy for the other is eroded. You waste your life in comment sections, arguing with bots and strangers, feeling a righteous high that accomplishes absolutely nothing. You pour your emotional energy into a black hole. You bleed out pixel by pixel. And while you are distracted by the spectacle, the real world, the world of soil and sunlight and flesh and blood, crumbles. Let us move to the third dark layer, the death of the dream. There was a time when the human spirit was defined by the quest for the unknown. We crossed oceans. We built cathedrals that took 100 years to finish. We went to the moon. We did these things not because they were easy, but because they were hard, because the struggle gave life meaning. Now we have replaced the quest with the simulation of the quest. Video games offer a perfect example. I am not condemning games, I am analyzing their psychological utility. They provide a precise facsimile of achievement. You face a challenge, you struggle, you overcome, you level up, you get the dopamine hit of success. But what have you actually achieved? Nothing. The dragons you slew were code. The empire you built was dust. The brain, however, cannot tell the difference. To your primitive nervous system, you are a conqueror. You feel the satisfaction of a warrior. And because you feel satisfied, you have no drive to go out into the real world and conquer actual difficulties. You have been pacified by a digital pacifier. Why start a business with all its risks and failures when you can be a tycoon in a simulation? Why approach a potential partner and risk rejection when you can swipe right? Why learn to play the violin when you can watch a master play it on YouTube and feel a vicarious thrill? This is the simulation trap. It siphons off your ambition. It takes the fire that should fuel your destiny and uses it to keep you warm in your cage. You have wasting your life not because you are lazy, but because your biological drive for achievement is being hijacked and satisfied by artificial means. You are full.
but you are starving. Desolation. And as you sink deeper into the simulation, you lose your tolerance for boredom. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the soil from which creativity grows. When you are bored, your mind wanders. It makes connections. It dreams. But they have declared war on boredom. Every elevator ride, every wait in line, every moment on the toilet must be filled with content. You never have a moment of silence. You never confront your own thoughts. Do you know why this is crucial? Because if you sat in silence for 1 hour, just 1 hour, without a phone, without a book, without a screen, you would be forced to confront the reality of your life. The anxiety would bubble up, the regret would surface. You would see the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that pain, that vital, necessary pain, would compel you to change. They cannot allow that, so they fill your ears with noise. They fill your eyes with flashing lights. They keep you numb. They keep you distracted. They keep you wasting your life, one scroll at a time. Now, we arrive at the fourth dark layer, the temporal heist. We often say time is money. This is a gross undervaluation. Money can be printed. Money can be earned back. Time is non-renewable. It is the only resource that is truly scarce. When you give an hour to a corporation, to a screen, to a meaningless distraction, you are giving them a piece of your life that you will never get back. You are dying in installments. But here's the twist. They don't just take your present time. They take your future. By crippling your attention span, they ensure you cannot learn complex skills. By destroying your dopamine baseline, they ensure you cannot find joy in simple things. By atomizing your community, they ensure you have no support network.
They are engaged in a form of temporal colonization. They are colonizing your future self. The person you will be in 10 years is being robbed by the person you are today under the influence of their algorithms. You wake up at 30, at 40, at 50, and you wonder, where did it go? You have memories of shows you watched, of memes you laughed at, of arguments you had online, but you have no legacy. You have no body of work. You have no deep, abiding sense of purpose. You have been a tourist in your own existence. This is the ultimate tragedy. Not that life is short, but that we make it small. We trade the infinite for the immediate. We trade the profound for the pixelated. Extraction. The system is designed to create a learned helplessness. This is a psychological condition where a subject, after being repeatedly subjected to an aversive stimulus it cannot escape, eventually stops trying to avoid the stimulus even when opportunities to escape are presented. You have been conditioned to believe you cannot change, that the world is too messed up, that the economy is too rigged, that you are too tired, that it is too late. This is the nullification. It is the state where you accept your role as a consumer rather than a creator. You accept your place in the battery farm. But remember the loop I opened at the beginning? The atrophy coefficient? The score I promised to reveal? Listen closely. The atrophy coefficient is calculated by measuring the delta between your intent and your action. It is the gap between what you know you should do and what you actually do. If you are watching this and you feel a tightness in your chest, if you feel a flash of anger at the truth of these words, if you recognize yourself in the description of the addict, the sleepwalker, the battery, then your score is dangerously high. You are on the precipice of permanent nullification. However, the fact that you are still listening, the fact that you have not clicked away to a cat video or a celebrity scandal, the fact that you are enduring this uncomfortable mirror, that is the glitch in their system. They want you to waste your life because a wasted life is profitable. A wasted life is safe. The secret they don't want you to know, the revelation that breaks the spell, is that the door to the cage is not locked. It never was. The bars are made of light and sound. They are illusions. You can put the device down. You can walk out the door. You can embrace the pain of withdrawal, the terror of silence, the difficulty of deep work. You can reclaim your biology. You can re-architect your environment. The Protocol 8 I alluded to, it isn't a government program. It isn't a hidden algorithm. Protocol 8 is the 8 seconds of silence you need to hold before you react to a notification. It is the gap between stimulus and response. In that gap lies your freedom. In that gap lies your humanity. The mystery isn't how they control you. The mystery is why you let them. You have now seen the machinery. You have seen the wires under the skin.
You know they want you to waste your life. The only question left, the one that will determine your fate when this screen goes black in a few seconds, is this. What are you going to do with the rest of yours? Do not scroll. Do not comment. Do not click next. Just wake up.